From the headquarters of Tell Us Your English in Quito, Ecuador, this is From the South, and I am Sweeney Gray. At least 3 people have died during the anti-government protests that took over the Haitian capital, Port-au-Prince, as a result of an announced increase in fuel prices, which was later revoked. The price hike was part of a demand by the International Monetary Fund. The protesters are now demanding the immediate resignation of President Jovenel Moise. Protesters clashed with the Special Police Crowd Control Unit, who fired their guns into the air and detonated tear gas. Local radio reported that groups of armed people in civilian clothes had been seen in some downtown districts. But people also tried to return to normalcy as the general strike unfolded in different parts of the capital. Many fruit and vegetable merchants returned to their spots on sidewalks. Motorcycle taxis were back at their usual intersections, and lines continued to form at one of the few open gas stations in Pitonville, the Pitonville neighborhood of Port-au-Prince. Some flights were restarted too, with 3 aircrafts landing from the United States after all airlines canceled their services on Saturday. And land crossings into Haiti have also been closed because of the strike. Our correspondent Daisy Toussaint reports from the border with the Dominican Republic.
I am in Himani on the border with Haiti on the second day of the general strike called by different social movements and trade unions. This after the intense protest that left at least 3 people dead. The private sector in Haiti is demanding the immediate removal of the Prime Minister Jacques-Guy Lafontaine. The Senator Price Dumont spoke today and said the government knew the people would not accept the move to increase the price of gasoline, and that is why they have had to use 117 million gourdes to distribute to groups close to the government to try to maintain the peace. President Jovenel Moise met on Monday with the leaders of the Senate and the lower house and with the judiciary to analyze the violence that the country is experiencing. The president is also consulting political parties about a possible replacement for the prime minister. Flights remain suspended and the land border is closed. On the Dominican side, the immigration and customs services are working, but on the Haitian side, everything is paralyzed. We'll be keeping you updated.
We thank Daisy for that report. Now, residents in the Nicaraguan town of Diriamba have been criticizing what they say is collusion between the church and violent opposition groups. A group protested outside the San Sebastian Basilica in Diriamba on Monday to demand that the local priest hand over the church, which they say has been used as a refuge for the armed groups. For their part, members of the clergy said their team of mediators had been attacked by paramilitaries. Government supporters welcome what they call the liberation of Diriamba. According to the Sandinista forces and the residents, the town had been taken over by vandals and criminals who have now been driven out.
Those who came to liberate us were part of the Sandinista government, and that is why we are happy, grateful. We appreciate everything they did because since yesterday we have been living in peace. Before we couldn't leave our homes.
We have identified the people in charge of the barricades with all of their weapons. They are vandals, criminals, deportees from the United States, drug traffickers.
Now to Guatemala, where the cases of alleged sexual abuse by President Jimmy Morales continue to make the news. The Attorney General Maria Consuelo Porras met with the former Foreign Minister Edgar Gutierrez to discuss the cases where Morales was accused of abusing several female government employees. Gutierrez gave a statement but didn't give the names of the alleged victims. There could be as many as 12 victims in this case.
In the
testimonies I received, there are continued practices of abuses, and it's not fair. I speak on behalf of 2 victims I know, but there are references of more than 10 victims besides them. And another thing is that these women still have to go through a process of reaffirming their self-esteem.
If these victims don't want to come forward to authorities, they don't have to worry. They can go to where they are to avoid any public appearance and to protect each and every one of the victims. So all protocols and security measures will be put into place.
People gathered outside Ecuador's presidential palace to demand answers from the government of President Lenin Moreno regarding the disappearance of a woman and her daughter 17 days ago. Relatives of Maria Jose Ponce Vargas and her 4-year-old daughter reported the disappearance on June 23rd. Authorities have only said they are investigating the case and are following protocols. They added that information on the case will be released in due course. In Peru, there are candidates running for mayor and governors in 18 of the 24 Peruvian regions, allegedly linked to drug trafficking.
Researcher Jamie Antezena said that at least in 18 Peruvian regions, there are what he calls narco candidates, candidates linked to drug traffickers.
We are not just talking about a random candidate that is financed by some drug clan, but about candidates coming from the most powerful drug trafficking families in the north.
According to Antezena, most of the narco candidates running for the local elections in October are in the north of the country.
The north of Peru is the boarding area, the area for export by ocean, the departure point to Ecuador. Do you understand? That's what makes them more powerful.
According to Congressman Yoni Lescano, Congress should be held responsible for the rise of these candidates, as he refused to pass an electoral reform that would have allowed the Financial Intelligence Unit to dig into political parties' fundings.
It makes it easier for narcos as they are allowed to participate in the election process. Once the narcos become kind of an authority, what is the Financial Intelligence Unit supposed to do?
Reports like this make Peruvian citizens distrust politicians and authorities even more.
This is not news for us. We know Peruvian politicians are always linked to the mob. It has always been like that.
If the state itself is involved in these kind of cases, what kind of control can we expect?
All Peruvians are fed up. Anyone can get into power and nothing happens.
According to experts, drug trafficking gangs have already entered into Congress, the army, and the judicial system. Now their goal is local governments in order to close the narco-state structure that they planned.
We're going to take a short break now, but join us again after this look at what our multimedia colleagues are reporting.
The Israeli army kill our children.
said how excited.
Welcome back. In Trinidad and Tobago, a shootout between rival gangs on a popular beach has left 3 people dead and several others injured. The incident occurred on Sunday night on Williams Bay in the northwest of the country, where families are usually gathered. When the shootout happened, people scampered and 3 others, including an 8-year-old boy, were injured in the melee. It's unclear if those killed were the intended targets. Gang war is common in Trinidad, but a shooting in such a public area is rare. The communications minister told local media he's disheartened, upset and concerned.
I'd say that we're in the hands of our Trinidad and Tobago Police Service and our Trinidad and Tobago Defence Force. We are hoping that they come out with some very aggressive plans, as we expect them to tackle this crime head on. Everyone always needs to be careful, but we hope that these places will be made safe so we can enjoy our summer vacation.
And staying in Trinidad and Tobago, emergency crews continue to battle an oil spill, which began almost a week ago. The leak, which was initially reported last Wednesday, is a combination of gas and light oil. On Sunday, an orange substance, which appears to be emulsified oil, appeared on 2 of the country's south coast beaches. Containment booms with skimmers are being deployed in the area. The spill is coming from an abandoned well. In Antigua and Barbuda, a group has filed an injunction to stop the government from building an airport in Barbuda. The injunction, which was filed on Friday, said that there were failures by the central government to meet the requirements under the Physical Planning Act, saying it failed to follow proper planning procedures. The group says they're opposed to the destruction of forests, wildlife and ecosystems allegedly associated with the construction of the airport. In Grenada, the new Bar Association president says convincing the public about the importance of the CCJ is a priority, but not a top priority. Grenada heads to a referendum in November to decide if the Caribbean Court of Justice should be the country's final court of appeal. The Bar Association says they continue to support the move to adopt the CCJ, and strategies are being put in place to inform voters. However, the new president says their top priority should be finding new courthouses on the island.
It's not a secret that the most pressing issue for us now is to find a court. And that has to trump everything else. And I have said elsewhere, and I'll say it here, it seems to me logical that resolving that issue, first and foremost, is probably going to assist us in the advocacy that we are going to carry out as far as advocating for the CCJ. It's going to be a difficult sell, in my view, humbly, to be seen to be pursuing pell-mell this matter of the CCJ while we don't have a court to house our business.
Despite its continued economic growth, Panama continues to be one of the world's most unequal countries. Economists point out that a lack of public and social policies prevent wealth from being shared across all sections of society.
Despite not reaching the IMF forecast for this year, Panama continues to be one of the world's fastest growing economies. But experts say that not everyone can benefit from the country's riches.
This is an economy that has low fees, but its growth does not benefit social majorities. Panama is one of the 10th worst countries for wealth distribution.
According to World Bank statistics, Panama is the 5th most unequal country in Latin America. The richest 10% earns 50 times as much as the poorest 10%. Another striking figure is that 1 out of every 4 citizens lives under the poverty line, as well as 54% of the rural and 96% of the indigenous population.
This is the ordeal of everyday Panamanians, of workers, of pensioners. The cost of living is extraordinarily high, while salaries remain low. Only big businessmen have great income.
Economists point out this situation is worsened by a lack of public policies to eliminate the growing economic gap.
This situation happens because of an economic policy that does not seek to develop the country, but wants to please foreign affairs and the top 1%.
The uneven distribution of wealth damages the country's economy and stunts its growth.
Poor income distribution is taking effect. There are people without no purchasing power, and the agricultural sector is being destroyed.
This growing gap highlights a country of heavy contrasts, where you can find luxurious landscapes next to great misery.
Turkey and Venezuela are strengthening commercial ties. Businessmen from both countries met on Tuesday at an economic forum. The meeting, called the Turkey-Venezuela Business Forum, took place in the city of Istanbul. During the event, Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro presented a document with various investment proposals that benefit both countries. The commercial and economic links between these nations were strengthened last May 17th after the signing of a series of agreements during a video conference between the two countries' leaders.
Turkey is an emerging power in Eurasia. It has great technological, industrial and productive capacity, and the entrepreneurs are anxious to start working and investing in Venezuela. We have started to establish a network of Turkish entrepreneurs that will invest in agriculture, in gold mining, in tourism, as well as other areas of our economy. We are quickly deepening our ties with Turkey. We are expanding our mutual beneficial relationship with President Erdogan's new government. Together, we will go further than before.
Telesur Sergio Rodrigo has more from Istanbul.
Yes, Venezuela and Turkey are trying to develop closer economic ties, just a day after Recep Tayyip Erdogan was sworn in as president under this new system of an executive presidency in Turkey. In the economic talks that took place here in Istanbul today, there were various representatives of the Venezuelan government, led by President Nicolas Maduro himself. Maduro asked the Turkish delegates to strengthen the economic relations between the two countries. And that was echoed by the Turkish side, with various government figures saying that with this new government, new agreements were needed with Venezuela. As I say, this intense discussion comes just a day after Erdogan took up his new mandate and appointed his new cabinet.
We're going to take a short break now, but join us again after this look at what our multimedia colleagues are reporting. Welcome back. All 12 boys and their football coach have been safely rescued from the Tam Luang cave in Thailand. They have been transferred to a hospital in Chiang Rai and are reported to be in good health. The country has been on a standstill since they were found alive inside the cave some 9 days after they went missing on June 23rd. Over 100 divers were involved in the rescue operation. And earlier we spoke with the journalist Nicolas Bertrand, who's been on site covering the rescue operation. He gave us an update on the condition of the rescued boys and their coach.
Actually, they are quite fine, as far as I know. It's much better than expected, and the doctors are very, very confident. No one has fever, for example. Of course, they are weak, really, really weak, but they don't have any specific pathology. And I can tell you that they are starving. They are asking for food, specifically for meat, but it's a good sign. The 12 boys will have to stay now, let's say, a week at least at the hospital, but after they will be able to go back to their family.
Latin American groups in London are preparing protests against U.S. President Donald Trump when he visits the United Kingdom. Groups are mobilizing support and planning protests in the lead up to and during Trump's visit. Trump is scheduled to visit on Friday. The protests will be called together against Trump is supposed to run throughout the afternoon.
I think that it is very important that there is constant pressure from the Latin American community expressing its rejection of Donald Trump's visit. The reason is very simple. Not only does Donald Trump represent the worst of what the Yankee Empire is against Latin America, but he also violates literally every day human rights when he separates children from their parents in this latest racist policy applied to migrants in the U.S.
I think if we can get a huge turnout of people on the street to show that his visit is not in our name, I think that will send a very important message to the world that we oppose his policy agenda, we oppose his racism, particularly towards Latin America, and that we will not stand idly by and allow somebody like Donald Trump to get away with the sort of bigotry that he has been espousing since he was elected into office back in 2016.
The first of the World Cup semi-final games is about to kick off with the 1998 World Cup champions France playing against Belgium. And on Wednesday, Croatia will face England. And with that, we've come to the end of this news brief. But for these and many other stories, you can find them on our website at telestiotv.net/English. But you should also follow us on social media. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. For Telestio English, I'm Sonia Gray. Thank you so much for watching.